They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But when someone humiliates you in front of your daughter on the most important day of her life, that dish gets served at lightning speed. My name is Margaret Chen, and I'm about to tell you how my ex-husband called me worthless at our daughter's college graduation, not knowing that I held the keys to his entire career in my hands. Within 24 hours, everything he'd built came crashing down. And the best part, he handed me the weapon himself years ago. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why what I did was justified, you need to know the whole story. You need to know about the betrayal, the lies, and the 15 years I spent rebuilding myself from nothing. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let me tell you how one moment of cruelty became the worst mistake of David Chen's life. Before we dive in, if you love stories about karma catching up with people who deserve it, you're in the right place. I'm sharing this story on Revenge Hub because I know there are others out there who've been knocked down and need to see that justice does exist. Hit that subscribe button right now because we share real stories of people who fought back against bullies, cheaters, and manipulators. Don't miss out on stories that will make you cheer, cry, and believe in cosmic justice again. Now let's go back to where this all began. 20 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was 26 years old, fresh out of business school, and engaged to David Chen, the most ambitious man I'd ever met. David was 30, handsome, charismatic, and already climbing the corporate ladder at Meridian Tech, one of Silicon Valley's rising stars. I was in love. Stupidly, blindly, completely in love. We got married in a beautiful ceremony in Napa Valley. My parents flew in from Taiwan, his family came from Boston, and everyone kept telling us we were the perfect couple. Power couple, they called us. Both ambitious, both driven, both ready to conquer the world. The first crack appeared on our honeymoon. We were in Bali, staying at this gorgeous resort overlooking the ocean. I'd been working on a business plan for a startup I wanted to launch, a platform connecting small Asian-owned businesses with American consumers. I was so excited about it that I spent one evening at the resort's business center, refining my pitch deck. When I came back to our room, David was furious. "This is our honeymoon, Margaret," he said, his voice cold. "But I guess your little hobby is more important than us." Little hobby. Those words should have been my first warning. "It's not a hobby," I said, trying to stay calm. "This is my dream, David. This could be something real." He softened then, came over and kissed my forehead. "I know, baby. I know you're passionate. But let's be realistic. You're going to be a mom someday. Do you really want to be struggling with a startup when we have kids? Why not just get a stable job? Use that business degree for something secure." I let it go. It was our honeymoon after all. 3 months later I got pregnant with our daughter, Emily. And David convinced me to put my dreams on hold. "Just for a few years," he said. "Just until Emily's in school. Then you can do whatever you want. I promise." I believed him. God, I was so naive. I took a part-time consulting job that I could do from home. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was making a smart choice, being practical, being a good mother. The truth was I was erasing myself piece by piece. Emily was born in March, a beautiful, perfect baby girl with my eyes and David's smile. I fell in love with her the moment they placed her in my arms. Everything I thought I knew about love before that moment seemed shallow in comparison. For the first few years, things were okay. David was traveling a lot for work, getting promotion after promotion. We moved to a bigger house. He bought me a luxury SUV. From the outside we looked successful, happy, blessed. But inside our home I was shrinking. Every time I mentioned going back to work, David had a reason why it wasn't the right time. "Emily needs you right now. The market's too unstable. Why do you need to work? I make enough for both of us." And the worst one. You're not as young as you used to be, Margaret. Starting a business at your age. With no recent experience. Be realistic. I was 32 years old. And he made me feel ancient, obsolete, worthless. But I pushed those feelings down. Focused on Emily. I volunteered at her preschool, organized playdates, made organic baby food from scratch. I told myself I was living my purpose. Then came the day everything shattered. Emily was 5 years old when I found the text messages. It was a Thursday afternoon. David had left his iPad on the kitchen counter, and it kept buzzing with notifications. I glanced at it, just meaning to turn off the sound, but I saw the preview of a message from a name I didn't recognize. Amber. Last night was incredible. When can I see you again? My hands went numb. I opened the iPad. No password, he'd always trusted me not to snoop. And there they were. Months of messages. Photos. Hotel receipts. Evidence of an affair that had been going on for almost a year. Amber Martinez. 26 years old. Junior account executive at his company. The messages were disgusting. Not just because of the affair but because of what he said about me. My wife has let herself go. She's not the woman I married. All she does is talk about Emily and organic vegetables. I need someone who challenges me intellectually. I sat at that kitchen counter for 2 hours, reading every message, looking at every photo, watching my marriage disintegrate before my eyes. When David came home that evening, I was waiting for him in the living room. Emily was at my mother's house. We need to talk, I said. The look on his face when he saw his iPad in my hands was almost comical. Pure terror, followed quickly by anger. You went through my private messages. You're having an affair. I screamed. It was the first time I'd raised my voice at him in years. What followed was the ugliest fight of my life. He denied it at first, then minimized it, then finally blamed me. What did you expect, Margaret? You're not the same person anymore. You're boring. You're soft. You have no ambition, no drive. All you care about is Emily and your little domestic life. You convinced me to give up my career. I threw a pillow at him. You begged me to stay home. You said it was temporary. I thought you'd still be interesting, he shouted back. I thought you'd still be the woman I married, not some suburban mom who doesn't even try anymore. Each word was a knife. I asked him to leave. He refused. It was his house, he said. He'd paid for it. That's when I learned the ugly truth about being a stay-at-home parent. Had no income. The house was in his name. The cars were in his name. Our joint account had mostly his money in it, and he made that abundantly clear. You want to leave. Fine. Leave. But Emily stays with me. What judge is going to give custody to an unemployed woman with no prospects? He was bluffing, but I didn't know that then. I was terrified. We went to marriage counseling. It was a disaster. David refused to take any responsibility. The therapist gently suggested that we both had work to do, and David latched onto that like a life raft. See, it's not all my fault. You have problems too. I filed for divorce 3 months later. The divorce took 2 years and nearly destroyed me. David hired the most aggressive lawyer in Silicon Valley. He tried to paint me as an unfit mother, as someone who was mentally unstable, as a gold digger who had trapped him into marriage and now wanted to take everything he'd worked for. None of it worked, thank God, but the process was brutal. In the end, I got primary custody of Emily, child support, and a modest settlement. Not nearly what I deserved after being his wife for 9 years, after giving up my career for him, but enough to start over. The house was sold. David moved into a luxury condo in San Francisco. I moved with Emily into a 2-bedroom apartment in San Mateo, and I was 35 years old, starting my life from scratch. People talk about rock bottom like it's a moment, a single point in time. But rock bottom isn't a moment. It's a season. A long, dark, exhausting season where every single day is a battle just to keep your head above water. I cried myself to sleep for months. Not because I missed David, God no. But because I mourned the life I'd imagined, the future I'd planned, the version of myself I'd lost somewhere along the way. Emily kept me going. My beautiful, smart, perceptive 7-year-old daughter who would curl up next to me on the couch and say, "It's okay, Mommy. We're going to be okay." And I decided she was right. We were going to be okay. More than okay. I dusted off that old business plan from my 20s. The one David had called a hobby. The one I'd abandoned to become his wife and Emily's mother. Needed work. A lot of work. The market had changed, technology had evolved, but the core idea was still solid. Connecting small Asian American businesses with consumers who wanted authentic products and experiences. Called it Golden Bridge. I spent 6 months refining the concept. I took online courses in digital marketing and e-commerce. I reached out to old classmates from business school who'd stayed in the industry. I applied for small business grants and loans. And I got rejected. Over and over and over. Too niche. Not scalable. You don't have recent relevant experience. That last one always felt like David's voice echoing in my head. But I kept going. I started small. I built a simple website and reached out to 20 Asian American small business owners in the Bay Area. Family restaurants, bakeries, import shops, artisans. I offered to feature them on my platform for free, just to build up a portfolio. 15 said yes. I taught myself basic web design. I wrote all the content myself. I took the photos myself with my iPhone. I did everything on a shoestring budget while working part-time as a business consultant to pay the bills. Emily was my little helper. She'd come with me to visit the shops, charming the owners with her curiosity and her surprisingly sophisticated palate for an 8-year-old. She'd help me stage photos, test recipes, and give me feedback on the website design. "Mommy, this color is better. Mommy, that description makes me hungry." She was my business partner and my best friend. Slowly, painfully slowly, Golden Bridge started to grow. I got my first paying client after 8 months. A family-owned dim sum restaurant that wanted help with online ordering and social media marketing. They paid me $2,000. I cried when the payment cleared. $2,000. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I'd earned it with my own skills, my own work, my own vision. By the time Emily was 10, Golden Bridge had 30 clients and was making a modest profit. Not enough to quit my consulting job, but enough to feel like something real, something with potential. By the time she was 12, I'd hired 2 part-time employees and was featured in a local business magazine as an entrepreneur to watch. By the time she was 14, Golden Bridge had expanded beyond the Bay Area and was connecting hundreds of small businesses with consumers across California. And by the time Emily was 16, I'd been approached by a venture capital firm interested in investing. This is where the story gets interesting. Where all those years of humiliation and hard work suddenly became the foundation for something David never saw coming. Hold on, we're just getting to the good part. But first, if you're loving this story, make sure you're subscribed to Revenge Hub. We've got dozens of stories like this one. Real accounts from real people who refused to stay down when life knocked them flat. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Now let's talk about that venture capital firm. The VC firm was called Summit Partners, and they specialized in minority-owned businesses with strong growth potential. The managing partner, Patricia Wong, reached out to me directly after seeing our numbers. Golden Bridge had grown 400% year over year for 3 straight years. We had over 500 small business clients, and our platform was generating significant revenue through subscription fees, advertising, and e-commerce commissions. Patricia invited me to their offices in Palo Alto. It was one of those sleek, modern buildings with exposed brick and too many fiddle-leaf fig trees. I wore my best suit, the one I'd bought for my first consulting pitch years ago, and tried not to shake during the elevator ride up. The meeting lasted 3 hours. They grilled me on everything: business model, growth strategy, competitive analysis, team structure, technology infrastructure, financial projections. I answered every question. I'd lived and breathed this business for 7 years. I knew every number, every client, every challenge, every opportunity. At the end of the meeting, Patricia smiled. "Margaret, I'm going to be direct with you. We're interested in investing, but we need to see a clear path to major expansion. Can you scale this nationally? Can you build the technology and team to support that growth?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I've been planning for this. I just needed the capital to make it happen." They offered me $2 million for 30% equity. I negotiated them up to $2.5 million for 25% equity. Patricia laughed and shook my hand. "You're tougher than you look." "I've had good teachers," I said. "Mostly in the form of people who underestimated me." The investment closed 2 months later. I used the money to hire a development team, expand our marketing efforts, and open offices in Los Angeles, Seattle, and New York. Within a year, Golden Bridge was operating in 15 states. Within 2 years, we were nationwide. Within 3 years, we had over 5,000 small business clients and were being courted by major corporations who wanted to partner with us for diversity initiatives and supply chain development. And here's the delicious irony. One of those corporations was Meridian Tech, David's company. I need you to understand something. I wasn't trying to destroy David. That wasn't my goal. I'd spent years building something meaningful, something that helped people, something that made a difference in communities that were often overlooked by mainstream business. David was a footnote in my life by this point. I barely thought about him except when Emily came back from weekend visits looking sad or frustrated. He'd remarried, of course. Not Amber, the affair hadn't lasted. He'd married someone else, another younger woman named Jessica, and they had a son together. Emily had a half-brother she barely knew. David paid his child support on time, I'll give him that. But he was a mediocre father at best. He'd miss Emily's events, forget important dates, cancel visits at the last minute because of work. Emily never complained, but I could see it hurt her. "Mom," she said once when she was 17, "do you think Dad's proud of me?" My heart broke. "Baby, your dad loves you. He's not good at showing it." "He's good at showing it with Mason," she said quietly. Mason was her half-brother. "He goes to all of Mason's soccer games." I had no answer for that. What could I say? That her father was selfish. That he'd always prioritized his new family over her. That he was exactly the same man who'd betrayed me, just with a different victim. Instead, I held her and said, "I'm proud of you." So proud I could burst. "And baby, that's going to have to be enough." But it ate at me. The way he treated our daughter. The way he'd compartmentalized his life, keeping Emily at arm's length while playing Father of the Year with his son. And then came Emily's senior year of college. Emily had gotten into Stanford. Full scholarship. Business and East Asian Studies double major. She was brilliant, hardworking, and despite everything, kind. She'd grown up watching me rebuild my life from nothing, and it had shaped her in beautiful ways. She was ambitious but compassionate. Driven but generous. She volunteered, she mentored younger students, she'd even done a summer internship with Golden Bridge, working with our small business clients. I was so proud of her I could barely stand it. Graduation day was on a sunny Saturday in June. The ceremony was at Stanford Stadium, and I got there early to get good seats. My parents had flown in from Taiwan, and my sister came up from San Diego. We were a whole cheering section. David arrived late, as usual, with Jessica and 10-year-old Mason. We'd agreed weeks earlier on the seating arrangement. We'd be civil for Emily's sake. Separate but polite. This was her day, and neither of us wanted to ruin it. Everything was fine until after the ceremony. We'd gathered outside the stadium for photos. Emily was glowing in her cap and gown, diploma in hand, surrounded by her family. I was taking pictures with my phone, capturing every moment when David walked over. "Emily, sweetheart, come take a picture with us," he said, gesturing to Jessica and Mason. "Sure, Dad. But can we take one with everyone first?" Emily asked. David's smile tightened. "I think separate family photos make more sense." "We're all her family," my mother said sharply in Mandarin. She'd never forgiven David for what he did to me. David ignored her. "Emily, come on. We need to get going soon. Mason has a birthday party at 3. This was typical David. Everything on his schedule, his convenience, his terms. Emily looked torn. She wanted to please everyone, make everyone happy. It was her fatal flaw, inherited from me. "It's fine, baby," I said. "Go take photos with your dad." And I stepped back. That's when David made his mistake. He looked at me, really looked at me, and there was something in his expression. Contempt. Satisfaction. That same look he'd had during our divorce when his lawyer was shredding me on the witness stand. "You know, Margaret," he said, loud enough for several people around us to hear. "I've been thinking. Emily turned out so well despite everything. Despite having a mother who was basically worthless during her childhood. No job, no ambition, just coasting on my success." The world stopped. "David," Jessica said quietly, touching his arm. He shook her off. "I'm just saying what everyone's been too polite to say. Emily succeeded because of her own drive, her own intelligence. Not because of you. You were dead weight for years. You're only something now because you copied my ambition after I left you." Emily's face went white. "Dad, stop. I'm just being honest, sweetheart. Your mother plays the victim, but the truth is—" "The truth," I interrupted, my voice steady despite the rage coursing through my veins, "is that you're an insecure, cruel man who can't stand that I built something without you. But you're right about one thing. Emily is successful because of her own drive. She's nothing like you." I turned to Emily. "Sweetie, take your photos. Enjoy your day. I'll see you at the restaurant for dinner." And I walked away before I said something I'd regret. But here's the thing. David had just reminded me of something I'd forgotten in my years of success and healing. He was still the same person who'd destroyed me. Still the same person who'd called my dreams a hobby. Still the same person who'd made me feel small and worthless and invisible. And he'd just done it again in front of my daughter, on one of the most important days of her life. That night, after the dinner celebration, after Emily had gone out with her friends, I sat in my hotel room and made a phone call. Remember when I mentioned that Meridian Tech wanted to partner with Golden Bridge? Here's what I haven't told you yet. 6 months before Emily's graduation, Patricia Wong from Summit Partners introduced me to Richard Hastings, the CEO of Meridian Tech. They were looking to overhaul their supplier diversity program and wanted Golden Bridge to help them identify and onboard minority-owned vendors. It was a huge contract, potentially worth millions over several years. But there was a complication. The project required close coordination with Meridian's operations team. And the vice president of operations, the person I'd be working with most closely, was David Chen. When I first found out, I almost walked away from the deal. But then I thought, why should I? I'd built this company from nothing. I'd earned this opportunity. David didn't get to take any more from me. So I took the meeting. David's face when I walked into that conference room was priceless. Shock, then confusion, then barely concealed fury. "Ms. Chen," Richard Hastings said warmly, shaking my hand. "Thank you for coming. I believe you know our VP of Operations, David Chen? Any relation?" He chuckled at his own joke. "My ex-husband," I said pleasantly. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. To David's credit, he recovered quickly. He was professional during the meeting. Cold but professional. We discussed the project scope, timelines, deliverables. I presented Golden Bridge's proposal. They accepted it. As I was leaving, David cornered me in the hallway. "What are you doing?" he hissed. "I'm doing business, David. The same thing you've been doing for the last 20 years. This is my company. Actually, it's Richard Hastings' company. You just work here." Smiled. "Don't worry. I can be professional even if you can't. This is about the work, not about us." And I meant it. I really did. For 6 months I worked with David's team. I kept things cordial but distant. I delivered excellent results. Our partnership was helping Meridian meet their diversity goals while giving Golden Bridge incredible visibility in the corporate world. It was a win-win. Until David called me worthless at Emily's graduation. That night in my hotel room I called Patricia Wong. "Patricia, I need to talk to you about something sensitive. About the Meridian Tech project." I told her what had happened at graduation. Then I told her something else. Something I'd discovered during our 6 months of working together. David had been skimming from vendor contracts. It wasn't obvious. It was subtle, clever even. He'd been approving inflated invoices from certain vendors owned by his friends and business associates. Those vendors would then kick back a percentage to David through various convoluted channels. I hadn't been looking for it. But I have a head for numbers, and something about the invoices hadn't added up. So I dug deeper. And I'd found a pattern of fraud that went back at least 3 years. I'd been sitting on this information, trying to decide what to do with it. It wasn't my business. It wasn't my company. And despite everything, part of me still didn't want to destroy Emily's father. But after graduation, that last shred of mercy died. "How much are we talking about?" Patricia asked. "Conservatively, about 2 million over 3 years. Possibly more." Patricia was silent for a long moment. "Margaret, this is serious. Do you have documentation?" "I have everything. Invoices, payment records, bank statements from one of the shell companies he's using. I hired a forensic accountant to verify it all. It's airtight. Why are you telling me this instead of going directly to Meridian?" "Because you're on their board of directors, Patricia. And because I trust you to handle this the right way. This isn't revenge. This is about doing the right thing." Except it absolutely was revenge. And Patricia knew it. And she didn't care. "I'll call Richard first thing Monday morning," she said. "Margaret, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I know this can't be easy given your personal history." "He called me worthless in front of my daughter," I said quietly. "After everything I've overcome, everything I've built, he still thinks I'm nothing. So no, Patricia. This isn't hard at all." Monday morning, Patricia called Richard Hastings. Monday afternoon, Meridian Tech's legal team began an internal investigation. By Tuesday evening, David was suspended pending the results of the investigation. By Wednesday, the investigation confirmed everything I'd provided. By Thursday, David Chen was fired for cause, with criminal charges pending for fraud and embezzlement. Within 24 hours of calling me worthless, David lost his job, his reputation, and his freedom. And I had barely lifted a finger. I'd simply told the truth. Emily called me on Friday crying. "Mom, what happened? Dad says you destroyed his life. He says you planted evidence and lied to his company because he hurt your feelings." My heart sank. Of course that's what he'd told her. "Emily, baby, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Your father committed fraud. He stole money from his company. I discovered it while working on our project together, and I reported it. That's all I did. But the timing is because I'd been wrestling with what to do. And after graduation, after he humiliated me in front of you and our family, I decided I was done protecting him. Done making excuses for him. Done letting him get away with treating people like they're disposable." Emily was quiet. Then, "He really stole money. He really did. I have all the documentation. The forensic accountant's report. Everything. I can show you if you want." No, I believe you," she sighed. "I think part of me always knew Dad was not a good person. I just wanted to believe he was better than he showed us." "I know, baby. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry, Mom. You did the right thing. Just, it hurts. He's still my dad." "I know. And that's okay. You can be angry at him and still love him. Feelings are complicated." She laughed shakily. "You would know. David tried to drag me through the mud. He hired lawyers, threatened to sue me for defamation, told anyone who would listen that I'd framed him out of spite. But the evidence was too strong. The investigation too thorough. Multiple vendors came forward once they learned about the investigation, confirming David had pressured them into the kickback scheme. He ended up pleading guilty to reduced charges to avoid jail time. He lost his job, his professional reputation, and most of his money to legal fees and restitution. His marriage to Jessica didn't survive the scandal. And me. Golden Bridge's profile only grew stronger after the Meridian Tech situation. We were seen as a company with integrity, willing to report wrongdoing even when it was personally difficult. Other major corporations reached out wanting to work with us. Emily graduated with honors and got job offers from multiple Fortune 500 companies. She ultimately chose to work with a nonprofit focused on supporting women entrepreneurs in underserved communities. She's her mother's daughter. So was it revenge? Absolutely. Was it justified? You tell me. David Chen spent 15 years making me feel small. He derailed my career, destroyed my confidence, cheated on me, called my dreams a hobby, and then had the audacity to call me worthless in front of our daughter on her graduation day. I didn't plant evidence. I didn't lie. I didn't frame him. I simply stopped protecting him from the consequences of his own actions. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. It's about finally refusing to let someone else's cruelty define you. It's about standing up and saying, "You don't get to treat me this way anymore. You don't get to walk away unscathed while I bear all the scars." David called me worthless. Within 24 hours, he lost everything he'd built on a foundation of fraud and arrogance. And me. I'm still here. Still building. Still growing. Still teaching my daughter that resilience isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up every single time and refusing to let anyone convince you that you're less than you are. That's my story. That's my revenge. And I'd do it all again. Thank you for listening to my story on Revenge Hub. If this resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated or knocked down or called worthless by someone who should have loved you, I want you to know, you're not alone. You're not weak. And you have more strength in you than you realize. Subscribe to Revenge Hub for more real stories of people who refused to stay down, who fought back, who found justice when everyone said it was impossible. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think what I did was justified? Was it revenge or justice? I want to hear your thoughts. Remember, you're stronger than the people who try to break you. You're more valuable than anyone who calls you worthless. And sometimes the best revenge is simply being successful, happy, and free while they face the consequences of their own choices. This is Margaret Chen, and you've been listening to Revenge Hub. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and never let anyone convince you to make yourself smaller for their comfort. Subscribe, comment, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you.